From the frozen lands of the north to the scorching deserts of Africa, from the walls of Istanbul to the misty coasts of America, this is a journey that stretches across the world. The story of brave men with bloodied axes, bodies covered in tattoos, who believed they were walking toward Odin's table. Blood, soil, drink, women, money, and adventure. A reckless, mad people who carved their names into centuries. Heads are taken, bones are broken, revenge is never forgotten, because they are Vikings. But don't be mistaken. This story is not only theirs, this is your story, all of ours. Are you ready to go back 1,200 years? Then take a deep breath. Gather your courage, because this journey is not for the faint-hearted. The date, April 30th, 793, in the ordinary Viking village in Scandinavia. Life flows as usual. The land is tilled, animals are tended, everyone is struggling to survive. These people living in small tribes that shared the same culture but fought each other in Norway, Sweden, and Denmark did not yet know that the world would fear them. But in that same year, a group of Vikings attacks the Lindisfarne monastery on the English coast. There is plunder, there is massacre, and this attack is etched into history. Of course, there had been attacks before, but this was different. A monastery considered sacred had been targeted. For Christian Europe, this was a shock. The Vikings would now be called the Wrath of God, and everyone felt one thing. This was only the beginning. So who were these men? What did they want? And how did they change the world so deeply? First, let's look at the beliefs that created them. In the beginning, there was a great void, a nothingness where cold and heat, ice and fire collided. From this chaos, Ymir was born, a giant with both female and male traits possessing the power to create. Ymir created a cow to feed himself. As the cow licked the ice, another god emerged from within it, Buri. From his lineage, 3 brothers were born, Odin, Vili, and Ve, and then Ymir was killed. His blood became the oceans, his bones the mountains, his hair the forests, his brain the clouds. That is how the world was created. This mythology was so deep that it even embedded itself into the names of the days. Wednesday was Odin's day, Thursday was Thor's, Friday belonged to Freya. Viking society was divided into classes. At the top were the nobles, the jarls. The middle class consisted of free people. They were the backbone of society. At the bottom were the slaves. But there was an interesting balance in the Viking world. A free man could not be forced into war. He had to be persuaded. How? With drink, feasts, and promises of plunder. Because Vikings drank well, very well, they would duel while drunk and consider it a sign of manhood. An Arab merchant and diplomat who saw them, Ibn Fadlan, says this: "I have never seen a people with more perfect physiques, tall, fair-skinned, like date palms, but at the same time the most vile creatures God ever created. They drink night and day. They never part with their axes. They do not care about adultery. They are like wild donkeys." For a sincere Muslim, this sight was horrifying. But for the Vikings, this was life. This mindset even reflected in their beliefs about heaven. The brave who died in battle would be rewarded at Odin's table with endless drink, fighting, and song. Those who died in their beds, however, would go to a cold, dark nothingness. That is why they loved war. 1/4 of society were slaves, women, men, captured, sold, treated like animals. They worked the fields, cared for the livestock. They were the backbone of the Viking economy. The slave trade grew so large that a network stretched from Scandinavia to Baghdad. Viking ships traveling along rivers would raid villages and kidnap people, Women and children were the easiest prey. The management of the household belonged to women. When men went on expeditions, women kept the entire system alive, and Viking women were incredibly free compared to the rest of Europe. They could divorce, inherit property, live without marrying. Some were even warriors. Most pagan priests were women. Human sacrifices were carried out through rituals they led. Blood was spilled and warriors were washed in it. They were forged in blood. But at the same time, they were the cleanest people in Europe. They considered bathing sacred. Now it is time for the expedition. Dragon-headed ships challenge the storms. There is no compass. But they can read the sun, the stars, and crystals. The year is 860. 200 ships approach Constantinople. Byzantium has no warning. The city burns. People are nailed. Heads are hung on ships, and the world comes to know the Vikings. But over time, the relationship changes. Treaties are made. Vikings become merchants. Baths, bread, wine. Byzantium even forms a special guard unit from Vikings. A Viking's carved name still remains in Hagia Sophia. Some go west, Iceland, Greenland, America, 500 years before Columbus. But this age does not last forever. Kings emerge, armies grow, Europe burns, Paris is plundered. Ships are dragged over land. This idea would even inspire the conquest of Istanbul centuries later. Was Ragnar real? Probably not. But what was told under his name was real. And then, 1066. The Viking Age ends. Christianity spreads. Feasts are replaced by churches. Odin's table is forgotten. No one defeated the Vikings. They transformed themselves. And in that transformation, they disappeared, but their stories remained, and they are still being told. And so the noise slowly fades, not with one final battle, not with a single fallen king, but with time itself. The Viking Age did not truly end, it changed shape. The ships stopped coming, the gods lost their names, and the axes were set aside, but the people remained. They learned new prayers, new laws, new ways to belong to a world that no longer rewarded endless war. The Vikings were never only destroyers. They were fathers, mothers, farmers, sailors, traders, and dreamers shaped by a brutal land. Violence was not their nature. It was their answer to survival. When the world changed, so did they. That is what history often forgets. No one defeated the Vikings. They outgrew the age that created them. They became part of the societies they once terrified, leaving behind more than fear. Roots of trade, ideas of law, stories of courage, and a hunger for the horizon. That is why their story still matters. Because it is not about blood or conquest, but about transformation. About how people can carry darkness and still choose something else. The Viking Age reminds us that cultures are not fixed, and neither are we. The sails are gone, but the journey never really ended.